In today's session, I'd like to show you how to do conditional column formatting, specifically the attainment output column of the attainment versus goal report that we created in a previous session. So I'm going to go ahead and open that report. Now you can see when I switch to the table view that we have this interval to date attainment column. And we have two performance measures, which are of different measure unit types. One is the amount type and one is percent type. So you can see in the column, interval to date attainment, it's showing appropriately. We have a dollar amount here, and we have a percentage of 18.5%. The first thing we're going to do is format this percent type. So instead of it being 0.185, we want it to be 18.5 and show the percent sign. So let's go ahead and switch to the edit mode on the criteria tab. And so for the attainment to date interval type, I'm going to edit its formula. You can see that it's just pulling the output achieved interval to date, but I want to create a case statement that says when the unit of measure is percent, then I want to take that value and multiply it by 100, thus moving the decimal place over to appropriately display it as 18.5%. And then I also want to format the column conditionally to show that when it is an amount, to format it appropriately as a number, but when it is a percentage, to format that appropriately as a percent. And I'm going to show you how to do both of those. So the first thing I want to do is put a case statement in here for the percent check. So I'm going to use expressions, and I'm going to use a case statement if. So the first thing is when, this when condition. So I'm going to say when the performance measure, unit of measure, I'll move that over, and I'll say equals percent. Then the attainment summary output achieved is then multiplied by 100. Otherwise, just give me the output achieved, interval to date attainment. And then I'll put a space here for the end, and then I'll say OK. So you'll see here that it's changed the name of the column to be a case statement. And that will render, if we go to the results tab here, as the column name. So we're going to want to change that. You can see this mess up here at the top. So let's go change that back to something that's friendlier. So here I'm going to change the column properties. The column format, I'm going to say custom heading. And this is attainment ITD. Now while I'm here, I'm also going to add the conditional formatting. So you go to the conditional format tab, you click add a condition, and I'm going to say when the unit of measure is equal to percent, then the data format is a percent, and I want 2 decimal places. and I'll say OK. I'll also add a condition for when the unit of measure is an amount. You can also add quantity here into your check for that column. I only have the two types, percent and amount right now, so I'll just leave it as that. So you can see it's by default a number. But I want to change it to a currency. And then what I'll do is I'll say I want the user's preferred currency and also 2 decimal places. And then I'll save this, say OK. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to run. Let's see what that does. So you can see I have the proper formatting now. So that's step one. The next thing we want to do is to take care of the fact that within our graph, when we compare these two numbers, you're not going to get what you think. In other words, what I'm saying is this number is so large as a target that for your goal, you're going to end up having a very large bar. And then this number is going to come back as 0.185, which is a number less than 1. So when you're trying to compare two bar graphs, one is a number less than 1 and the other one is over 2 million, the bar that's less than 1 won't even register. So let's solve that problem by adding another interval to date target. I'll go down here, participant period goal, and we'll add another column for interval to date target. This one we're going to hide eventually. I want to change this target so that instead of it showing the actual value that we put in for the goal, I want to change it to be 100%. That way, when we're comparing this 18.45%, we're comparing it to the number 100, which would be the total target. So if you can think of like when you're comparing percent to goal, we give it a number value as the goal, but really to reach this number would be 100% of the expected attainment. So let's put that case statement in for this column. So I'm going to go back to my criteria tab. And I'm going to go to my second. I'm going to edit its formula. You can see it's grabbing just the period, goal, interval to date. This time I'm just going to cut and paste, but it's the same case statement as before, but here we're saying when the performance unit of measure is percent, then the value is 100. Else, just give me the goal. So let's say OK to that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my results tab. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this graph. So I'm going to drag it into my workspace, my layout. I'm going to edit the graph, which will open up the layout dialog. You can see my case statement down here. And what I'm going to do is use this one in my graph. Import pull this one out into my excluded. Go back to the criteria tab. I'm going to say yes, I want to keep those changes. I'm going to come here and I'm going to change this and give it a friendly name again. What's it called? ITD target. I'm going to call this the graph target just so that we can distinguish between the two. Actually, I'm just going to call it target because that's what's going to show up in the display. I'm also going to conditionally format this. I'm going to do the same as I did previously by saying when the unit of measure is percent, then the data format is percent. Two places. I'm going to add another condition for the same as we did before for the amount type. This time I'm going to say it's a currency and it's user preferred. Okay, okay. This time I'm going to come in and I'm going to add another filter here so that we can see just the percentage types. And this is just a temporary thing. We can come back and remove this. Okay. All right, so you can see our orange bar here. We have an ITD target of 100. And then down here we have an attainment interval to date of 18. So now this is appropriately showing proportionally what we want to see. So we're comparing percents to percents, not percents to values or to numbers. I'm going to go back into edit mode of my graph. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to section on the unit just so we can see them in the same view. I'm going to go back to my criteria tab, save the layout changes. I'm going to go back to my criteria tab and I'm going to remove this filter that we just added. This time when I go back to the results tab, it should give me two graphs, one of an amount type and one of a percentage type. Let me come down and remove this graph because I just want the view selector to show. So you can see this one, we're comparing dollar values for as attainment. And in this one, we're showing percentage. Now I'm going to save. But since this report is used in a dashboard that has prompts that require the measure selection, we don't really need to do this, this sectioning to show. You may want to show this depending on how many different types you have or how many different performance measures you use. But since the prompts force you to pick the performance measure brings along with it its unit type, and then the graph will only be showing one unit type at a time. We're going to go back to our edit of the graph. Let me drag that back in here. Edit it, and then I'm going to remove the section. I'm going to grab the unit and drag it down here into the exclude box. That'll give us one graph. We'll say done. And I'm going to remove my graph from the layout because again I only want the view selector here. I'm going to save and we're done. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this informative, and please subscribe to the channel. I'll try to be posting one of these per week as I figure out more ones that customers or users may find useful, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.